Hi guys, welcome to a new lesson for the lab from Produce Webfix School. Today I'd like to start introducing you to Gaia from Quadspinner, a new interesting software that is really useful to create amazing terrain. And it is really useful, and we have the possibility to use it inside our pipeline where we use Erosion and Gaia to create amazing environments. And you know that here at Produce we use both together with Clarice and Udini, so it will be really interesting to see step by step how to use the software together to create something amazing. So now you see we just launched Gaia. This is the version 1.0.29.2. It is the bleeding edge. It is the version that is more updated. There is also the production version, so you can download the free version to follow this tutorial. We have many possibilities here. You see we have created terrain using the graph editor, so a node-based user interface. We have another mode to use Gaia. It's the created terrain using layers. So it's a simpler version using layers like, for example, After Effects or Photoshop or something like that. Then we have the Erosion Studio, where you can sculpt by hand the terrain using the erosion algorithm. And then you can open an existing scene or create a kickstart. So let's use the first option, create the terrain using the graph. It takes a little bit to create the user interface. It is creating on the second monitor, so please wait just a few seconds to have it ready. Today I like to introduce you to the user interface, and we'll start to do something simple over our terrain here. So that's the user interface. It is completely customizable. So here we can scale it, we can scale the other panel, and we can scale obviously on the other side. So it is completely GPU powered, so it is really fast because it is using our GPU to create the preview. Here we have the toolbox, so we have all nodes that can be used. Here we have the primitives, so we are talking about geometry primitives. We have the adjustment layer, we have some filters, we have different kind of erosion. We have information about the data maps, so we can extract information about the terrain. We have some selection, and then we have maps to control the colors, to create textures, and we have the output. And then here we have some new utilities, but it's not so important. We'll move step by step inside the software. Main things you have is there we have the main menu, and here we have the properties. So when you select a node in the user interface, you have here all information and all parameters. Some more information. This is really useful. That's the viewport preview resolution. So this is the preview viewport. You can use the alt left mouse to make the orbit, and then the mouse wheel to make the zoom. And if you use the middle mouse with the alt key, you have the pan. The resolution for the preview, and you see that's the just to give you a rough idea, that's a basic scene created by Gaia, and here you have the same way. So if you use the mouse wheel, you have the zoom, and if you use the middle mouse, you have the pan. You can select a node. When you select the node, you have the result here in viewport. You see that it's changing. If you like to preview again to make a new calculation for a node, you select the node and then press F5 function key, and you have the recalculation. Actually, this is using the half key resolution. In viewport, we have the possibility to make the preview at half key, 1 key, 2 key, and 4 key. The export is able to be done at 32 key resolution, so really high, but you know, it is low. So inside the viewport we have just this kind of resolution. Just to give you a rough idea, if we go one key, so double the resolution, it takes just a little bit of time to redo everything, but you see that the result is better. We can do the same moving to 2 key. See that it is redoing everything step by step, and we have the new result, and the quality is really higher than before. And the last step is 4 key. As you see, this one, it is saying that it's really complex, and it needs a lot of RAM, and it needs a powerful GPU. This workstation is 128 gigabytes of RAM. It is a Threadripper 2917, and I'm working with an NVIDIA RTX 2070. So it's really fast. So let's say yes, I like to see the preview. You see that it's taking time to update each nodes, because we are talking about 4,000 points for every axis. So let's wait for it. I stopped the recording just to lose not so much time. So you see it is updating. It took a little bit to create the new terrain, but it is going really well. You see that it's still updating the visualization, but it is great. And you see that it moves really fast. If we go near, you see that we have a lot of details. So let's imagine that when we have the export using the 32 key resolution, the terrain will be amazing. So let's go back to a lower version, because you know it's too slow. So let's go to 1 key, so we can move really fast in the visualization. And just to let you know, we have also the possibility to have different visualization. You see that here we have the orbit. That's the mode we are using to manage the scene. Then we have here the first person, but I don't take care about it. And then we have also the 2D viewport using the function key 6 can be activated. And you see that we can see from the top the result. And when we stay over a 2D maps, for example, when we have something about some 2D export, we can see how it works. We have more tool, but we are going to talk about it step by step. Some more kind of tool based on the visualization here. Let's see, here we have the option for the world. We have the possibility to control the light here. You can manage directly here in real time. So you see that, you see how this is changing, and that's really nice. We have here the advanced control to control if you like to have shadows, if you like to have the ambient light, if you like to have ambient occlusion. So the new rendering system is really nice. We have the control to the exposure, sun intensity, ambient intensity. Then here we have some colors that are assigned by default to the terrain, and that's really nice. If you like, you have the possibility to add the water, and we can make it higher. So you see that here we have now the water, and it's also animated. Okay, let's go back here, and then we have some information about the terrain definition, so the height, the base height, and the scale. So actually it is just to understand that here we can control the lighting for the viewport and some more information about the colors and stuff like that. You can manage the lighting from here, or you can control the sun azimuth and sun elevation just moving this one. So you see that we can change the rotation over the world axis or the elevation of the sun just playing with 2 parameters. Here we have the export, and we'll see in a few. And then we have the most important area here, and I'm talking about the node-based user interface. This terrain is based on some basic tool, and I'm talking about the mountain. So that's the basic layer. The mountain is creating a mountain primitive. So here, you know, if we select mountain, we have, actually we are checking just this node. We have the scale. So you see we can scale the mountain, and it is changing the scaling. Or we can go up with the scaling, and you see that we have more details than before. We have the possibility to control the edge. So edge will be bigger, so we have just the mountain inside, or we can have a really low value or 0, so we have the extension of the mountain all over. And then we have the seed. With the seed, we are changing the procedural map, so it is a random number that is used to control the mountain. Okay, so you see every time we have something different. We have the type, so we have 4 different type of mountain. So you see we can have different kind of mountain just using this parameter. So let's say that maybe let's rotate this one. We can go with a type C as we had before. And then we have the control for the height, and here we have natural. So it is more natural than the enhanced. And we have the enhanced. And then we have also the equalized. Okay, so it is changing the basic noise procedural map that is used to create a mountain. Then from this node, and you know that we can have also a mask to control the primitive. By the way, we'll talk about mask in a future tutorial. We have the output, and then we move to the displace. The displace is able to add more information here about the terrain. You see that here we have some kind of displacement. So we have the standard one, we have the vertical one. So you see that the displacement is used everywhere. Then we have the ragged, so we can take care about how this is used, and then we have custom. By the way, if we go with the standard, it is applied to the mountain. If we say to use the vertical one, it's used everywhere, and it is used just as an vertical displacement. If we go for the others, it is taking care about the terrain that is down, created by the mountain primitive. So let's go for the standard. Okay. We have some option to say if it is uniform or not. So you see that we have the vertical scale, or if we say that it's the same, the vertical scale is the same all over. We have the strength to decide how much displace we have. So you see that's displacing work we have. And we have to control about the noise. So we have the scaling. So we can decide, you see, to have more little detail. We have the complexity to have more details over the terrain. And then again, the seed to create different kind of procedural displacement all around. We have the iteration, so we can add some more information here in the location. By the way, we'll talk about the node in a coming tutorial. Then we have here some more inputs. Again, you see the mask, and we have the custom, because when we go here, we have the possibility to create custom, so we can add a map to control the custom displays. Then the output of this node goes to the erosion. Erosion is amazing. It is really powerful erosion system inside Gaia. You see that we have the input, and obviously it takes the output from the display, so it needs a mesh. Here we can decide some areas where we have the erosion, and then again we have a mask, so we have the possibility to create a mask. And then we have 4 different outputs. We have the output here, we have the geometry, so the new geometry with the erosion. We have the weir, we have the deposit, and we have the flow. So we can export different information here, and that's really, really nice. This is the enhanced visibility to see in a better way what we are doing, or we can use the color. And then again, it can be a 3D visualization, or we can decide to see just a 2D visualization. So you see how this is changing the map that is applied as a 3D. Sometimes we have still some bugs, so you see that there now we have no more color. So let's again use this one, and then you see that we have again this one back, and this one is in 2D. So talking about the erosion, we have different kind of effects. We have the control over the erosion, so we have the duration, we have the rock softness, we have the strength, then we have a lot of things, and I like to show you just something about how it is playing. So let's see, for example, this area. So it will be useful to see. Let's say that we have an higher strength, so it needs to recalculate. If you have some kind of problem when you change something, you have no update, you have just to select the nodes and press F5. Again, okay. Let's go back to the 3D. Let's go higher, and let's press F5. Okay, you see that with the strength, it is more visible, the erosion. Let's say the duration. If we have an higher duration, it will take more time for the erosion. So you see that we have more erosion because it is something like having more time erosion over the terrain. So we see a deeper effects of the erosion during the time. Then we have the rock softness. Let's see if we go lower, we press F, you see that it's softer. Let's go here, and you see maybe we can work with a 2 key. It will be not so much slow, but we see more detail. Okay, that's, I think, really nice. Okay, so let's go again back to the soft. Okay, lower seems better, so we have the possibility to have a softer version, or a more detailed version of the rock. Then we have more information about the down-tag cutting. By the way, we will talk about the erosion step by step. Here we have the scale, so it's using the real world scale. We have the possibility to go higher with the scale. So the erosion will use a different scaling system. Okay, we can see how it looks step by step, but you know, sometimes it's not so visible what it is doing, but you know, it is changing how the terrain is looking. We have the flow, so we say which is the volume. For example, let's say that we have rivers, and we have some information about the volume, and again, let's make a new calculation. So let's go higher, and let's make a deeper flow. Okay, you see that now we have all the erosion done by the river, and it's really interesting because it's simulating the river. Maybe we can try to see again a bigger scale to see if it is moving the river. And you see that we have a bigger scale than before. And then something that can be used, let's see if we set the debris. So it should calculate the debris in the erosion. So let's see. It's not so much visible, so maybe we have to take care about more information about how it is working. By the way, let's say that we have a little bit higher duration. let's say that the depth is a little bit lower, and again let's build the erosion. Okay, that seems amazing what we are doing, because with an higher duration, obviously we have a more complex erosion. Okay, because it is simulating an higher amount of time. By the way, I'd like to show you what happens if we like to have something more complex. So you see that here we have the erosion. Let's say that we like to change something here. Let's go for maybe we can use something else. So I like to show you something not so complex. The terrace, for example. To create a new node, you can, for example, use this one. You can drag and drop, or if you like, you can press in the node UI tab key, and you can write terrace. Okay, it is red because it needs an input. So let's pick the output from displace, and let's connect to input. If we go here, you see that it's creating terrace over the terrain. We can say that we like to have more. It is recalculating, so you see that we have the terrace effects. Let's say that we don't like to have anything more or change it. So what happened here? We have the erosion that is creating the erosion over the terrain. Then we have the terrace that is creating the terrace effects. But I like to have both. So we can use another node, the combine node. And let's say that we pick the output from the erosion, and it is the input here. So obviously we have just this one. And we have a lower height because we have a blend at 50%. We have nothing as input 2, so that's why we have just a lower height. And then we can say that the second one is the output from this one. So it is playing with both, and we can decide, for example, to have, let's say, 50%. So you see that it's using more erosion and less terrace. If we go higher there, obviously it's going to use an higher input too, so an higher terrace. By the way, you have the possibility to decide how to blend both. So if we go back here, let's say 48%, so something near the 50%, and then you see that here we have all the blending ways, so you can say add, so we have the terrace add to the blending, to the terrace, we have the screen, so that's really the same you do, for example, playing over Photoshop or something like that. So let's say that we go for blend. So it is blending both, and we have the possibility, obviously, to combine more stuff or to decide that we like to add something different than. Let's see if we go to something else, because here we have, for example, the adjustment, and we can decide to use, for example, let's say the auto level. Okay, let's connect the output to the auto level, and you see that it is controlling automatically the levels of the terrain. So everything now it's higher, but we can decide how to apply this one, and we have a lot of parameters to control the equalize, the logarithmic, so we can control something like the coloring for this one. So it is always a map, so we are changing how it looks. By the way, let's remove the auto level, and inside the adjustment, let's say that we go, for example, with let's say I like to let's say maybe I like to show you something. For example, let's say we have a clamp. Let's connect the output to the clamp, and you see that this one is clamping the map. So if we go to see in 2D, you see that here, let's say F5, let's go to see how it is looking. You see that we are going to have a minimum higher, so the mountain, the basic minimum value here is higher. Let's go back to this one, and if we go lower, you see that it is going to be lower, so we have less displace. So we are changing the displace just in this way, and we are using the operation clamp, so we are clamping the value, so it's like having half eighth than before. Actually, you see that we have the basic color created by the software. We are not taking care about how it works to create more information based on the color, but just to let you know, first of all, let's save this one, and we like to export some information. So you have to decide which is the node you like to export, so you can do it in different way. You see that here we have the build. If we press to the build, here we have the possibility, that's the build manager, so we can decide where we like to build the stuff and how we like to export using the different kind of textures and information, and which maps we'd like to export. So if you like to export the mesh directly, you have a node, that's the mesher. Okay, so let's say that we go to connect the mesher, and you see that inside the mesher we have the save to build folder, so it's going to save in the same folder where you are going to export information using the maps. And then we have some information about the scaling, the file format, so you see OBJ, point cloud or FBX, and the resolution. This is the vertex count, so it's going to use 512 vertices for every axis here. So if you like to have an higher resolution, you can do it. Then you can force the quotes because it is going to use polygons. Where it's possible, it's going to use the quote polygon, but it is going to use also triangles. So if you like to force two quotes, you can use force quotes here. Level of detail, none. So it means that we have just one layer of detail, and it's the first one. So 512, that's the resolution. And then we have 1/2 million polygons. Okay, if we say to use two different layers, we have the first one, the high resolution, that it's decided by the vertex count, and then we have half, and again another half version. So you can have different kind of level of details export just with one export. In this way, this one is going to export the mesh. By the way, you can, for example, select a node and say mark as export or press the F3 key. If you don't need to make something like that manually from the node here, I'm going just to save again. You can go in the build, and you see that here now we say now we see the measure. We can set on or off. We can decide which is the folder. So let's say that we go here, and let's call this one export. Okay, select the folder. Now that's the folder where we are going to export, and we can export node here. You see that here we have all the node we have inside the folder, and we can decide, for example, to export just to see how it looks, everything. So the mountain, the displace, the terrace, and you see that it's going to have this kind of icon, the disk, because it is flagged as export. And then we go for the erosion, and then we go for the combine, and we go for the clamp. Everything is saved actually in TIFF 32 bits, so it's really high quality. We can decide to go, for example, with EXR or something else, but we'll talk about export in a future tutorial. And when we have more export, like for example the erosion, when we have output, wear, deposit and flow, you see that we can decide if we like to export everything or just some maps. The same for combine. We have the combine and we can export the output or the separation. Actually, we don't need the separation. So we can decide, for example, here to control whatever we like to export. Let's try to export everything. And let's say that we have nothing more to control. So let's say start build. Save the current preview build is okay. So now it is going to save. And then it is going to export. So you see that it exported the maps, so we see different maps. So you see that's, and we have no color maps because we used it. So everything we asked for was exported. Actually, we have no mesh exported, so we can just remove everything here. Let's close and let's go here and let's export just the measure. So let's go and build. We have just the measure. Let's say build. It's okay to save game. And actually we have I have to understand why it's not going to export. Okay, it is exporting. It's using some sound, so it takes a little bit. So let's wait for the export. Okay, it is done. Now it worked. So maybe there was something wrong when I pressed it before the build. So you see that we have the measure here. So if we like just to see what is exported, we can use, for example, Clarice, and we can see the mesh. Obviously the mesh is low resolution. By the way, let's go here, file, import geometry, and we ask to import the folder from the folder we created before. Okay, let's import the material, but it's not important. And that's the mesh. Let's go to scale it to see in a better way. And then let's say that I like to see just the bounding box. Okay, you'll see that's our mesh. Obviously the resolution is low because we decided for 500 points. If you go to export a higher resolution, it will go better. So let's say that inside the measure we say, for example, okay, so we have 8 million polygons, and let's go again to build, start build. It's going to export. It will take just a little bit more, so let's wait for it. Okay, it is done. So let's go back to Gaia, and let's say that we like to import again. So import geometry, measure, yes. This one will be, you see, complex because it takes a little bit. It is done. So let's pick it again, bounding box. Let's scale it 10, 10, and 10. And you see that the details are higher. So it's really simple. It is a really amazing way to create a rain. So it was just an introduction to understand how it works. We'll move step by step in the coming months, talking about the most important feature, and we are going to use it in production to see what happened in our courses. So thanks for watching. We'll see more feature about Gaia really soon. Bye bye.